Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got a subscriber requested video is the way I'll put it. So I got tagged. Zhao from Scented Moments tagged me on 5 fragrances I love, 5 fragrances I hate. And I've never been tagged before. Usually I'm not the biggest fan of those tagged videos, but you know, that was a thing that used to happen years ago in Fragcom. You don't see very much of it now, but I wasn't going to say no. I am a good sport, especially to someone that I really respect like Zhao. I love his channel. And so I did the 5 and 5. And what's funny is I'm not an analytics guy. In case you haven't noticed, I kind of just do my own thing, and whether people like it or hate it, that's on them. I'm not going to do stuff that, you know, people like just because it gets me likes or views or anything like that. And I'm not going to stop doing something that I want to continue doing just because someone doesn't like it. That's just who I am. And so I happened to look at my analytics numbers the other day, and most of my videos, the ones that have been putting up at night, the very short, quick reviews, get a couple hundred views. The bigger videos, this is not a top 10, you know, stuff like that I do, the occasional full reviews. This year in Perfumer's Portfolio, they'll usually get 500 to 1,000 views on average, right? And then if you go look at my most popular videos, like my top 100 countdown, you know, that's had thousands of views. The interview with Liz Moores of Papillon and Russian Atom, that's had between 1,500 views and 2,000 views, right? That 5 I love and 5 I hate tag video has already had 2,300 views, which is a lot for my small little channel. And somebody made a request. They said, hey, Ramsey, I love this video and I have a recommendation. Could you do 5 fragrances that you initially hated but now love, and 5 fragrances that you initially loved but now hate? And I thought, wow, that's a lot. So I'm going to split this video up. I'm not going to do 5 that I initially hated and now love, and 5 I initially loved and now hated in one video. I'm going to split it. So this will be the first half of the video. It's going to be 5 fragrances I initially hated that now I love. And then tomorrow we'll do the other side of the coin. So before I get started, though, I should mention it's 12 o'clock noon here in Texas, Central Standard Time. In 4 hours, Rich, Mitch, and I are going to do a live stream. So if you have a chance, please tune in. I think everyone loves those live streams. Rich Mitch is such a valuable, knowledgeable, you know, vintage collector. And when him and I get together, you know, we could talk about anything. And we're going to talk about vintages and discontinued fragrances, everyone's favorite topic. And so if you get a chance, please tune in. And I love seeing everyone's in the comments. The interactions in the comments can take the conversation in a whole new direction. So anyways, if you're watching this video today, that's that. For those of you watching it in the future, obviously you could always go back and find the streams. I created a playlist where you can just find the streams and go from there. We're going to call it Ram Duck Productions. We did a part 1, so this will be part 2. I'm excited to get this going every, you know, couple weeks, maybe every month or 2. I think it's just good to kind of do these, especially with Rich. People love it too. So before I get into the 5 fragrances that I hated initially that I now love, let's do scent of the day, as is customary. So today's scent of the day is a Serge Lutens, Uncle Serge. This is called Santal Majuscule. Now, this fragrance came out a decade ago, and I'm pretty sure the perfumer is Christopher Sheldrake, but it doesn't actually list it on Parfumo, and that's usually what I go off of. This is a very simple fragrance, and yet very complex fragrance all at once. So this fragrance is classified as kind of like a woody, spicy fragrance, but really what you get is 3 notes: sandalwood, Turkish rose, and cacao. Now, the cacao note is one of the most unique and interesting cacao notes I've ever smelled, because I smelled Cacao Absolute. Russian Atom sent me, I still have some back here. And the Cacao Absolute almost smells like you're, you know, at Willy Wonka's facility and you're diving headfirst into the deepest, richest, dark chocolate you've ever smelled. I mean, it just smells like miles of chocolate, right? Deep, rich. And I love that. On the other hand, this is the exact opposite of that. This is almost like this dusty cacao. That's the word that initially comes to mind every time I wear this fragrance, dusty cacao. So it does have some gourmand leanings because of the cacao with sandalwood and rose, but it's just a beautiful, you know, some men, if they're not used to wearing fragrances that have this rose note, they may say that this leans feminine. I think this is completely, or traditionally feminine. I think this is completely unisex, if you ask me. Now, this is the older bottle style, the 50 ml that I prefer. I prefer these older bottles. And Rich, Mitch, and I are going to talk a little bit about Uncle Serge, the house, and some of our favorites on the stream tonight as well. So that's my quick scent of the day. If you've never smelled Santal Majuscule, that's one to put on the list. It really is just a lovely fragrance. Christopher Sheldrake can do no wrong. Okay, next. Before we start the 5 fragrances that I initially hated but now love, I have a bonus fragrance. So it's going to be 5 and 1 bonus. So this is the bonus fragrance. The reason it's a bonus is I didn't hate it originally. I was lukewarm about it, but I've forced myself to wear it many times. I've probably worn it 7 or 8 times now. And once I broke wear 3 or 4, it started to turn from a lukewarm to a like to a love. And the fragrance itself is called Guerlain Chamade. Now, this is the box. If you guys, this is a vintage that I ended up getting from the 80s, so you can see the short ingredient list right there. If you guys go to some of my old videos, you'll notice that many comments on some of those old videos are from a woman named Emile. And Emile was, I hope you're doing well, wherever you are, Emile. We miss you here at Channel Ramsey. But she used to give these fantastic comments, dissertations basically, and this was her favorite fragrance. And at her bequest, I bought it. And I did an unboxing, and I remember spraying it on and going, oh, this is not what I expected. And she told me it was going to be not exactly what you expect, right? It came out in 1969. It's a Jean-Paul Guerlain. This is the old vintage eau de toilette bottle, which they don't make this bottle anymore. I really like this bottle. The sprayer is a fire hose. And it's basically this aldehydic floral in the top with green touches. And the green touches is galbanum. Galbanum is the green touches. So if you like the galbanum in number 19 by Chanel, check out Chamade. It's a very interesting take on it. The reason it's interesting is it is spicy. There's like clove and stuff like that to go along with the florals. But there's this very resinous base, right? So there's definitely the guerlainade in the base, but it's obscured, it's hidden. It's hidden by this spicy, ambery, benzoin, Peru balsam, Tolu balsam, vanilla type thing in the base. And it is initially, I don't want to use the word cold, because I would use the word cold for number 19. This isn't cold, but it is initially maybe aloof or a little bit off. I don't want to say off-putting, but I would say, you know, it's like you meet a woman at a party and she has her guard up, right? She's guarded. She has her shell up. And you've got to kind of chip away at that shell before she'll allow you to get to know her, because she's a quality woman, right? That kind of vibe is what I get from Chamade. Someone who is experienced, they know who they are, they know they have a lot to offer, but they're not just going to show you everything about themselves at once, if you will. Chamade, the bottle of the Extrait, is one of the most beautiful bottles you'll ever see. It's the upside down heart, and it has these layers to it. And it's a beautiful representation of the fragrance, because the fragrance really does feel like there are layers to the fragrance. So it feels like, you know, the first, second wearing, like I couldn't understand it. It's so this is one of the most complex fragrances that you will ever smell. Ever. I think it's one of the most complex fragrances you will ever smell. And the first couple wearings, it was too much. It was like sensory overload. Like my brain couldn't break a fragrance down the way I normally do. Normally, I can just wear a fragrance and you start to understand it and break it down instantly. This one almost took me 3-4 wearings before I began the process of understanding what it was. And then between wearings 4 and 7 is where I really started to fall in love. And these are nighttime wearings. I haven't had a chance to wear it as my scent of the day yet, but I will very soon. But the more I wore it to bed and understood the fragrance, the more it kind of revealed itself to me. And there's another fragrance that I love and recently understood better that came out the exact same year as Chamade, and I think they share similarities to each other. They're both 1969 releases. This is not on the list, but I'm just showing you this as a comparison for Chamade. This is Dior Essence by Christian Dior. This is a Guy Robert creation, okay? This is the vintage eau de toilette bottles. If you ever see this bottle, but like it looks like blue, like it's a Dior Essence in blue eau de toilette, that's the original. And apparently it has loads of ambergris. But the idea with this is they wanted to make an animalic Dior fragrance with the beautiful Dior flowers on the top, but this resinous base underneath. These two fragrances are sisters, okay? They're sisters in arms. They're arm in arm working together. They came out the same year. They will remind you of each other. Now, I've never smelled the eau de parfum, and I've never smelled the Encre. And this is a vintage bottle. Remember, I showed you the old style Guerlain box with the short ingredient list. It basically only says alcohol, fragrance, and water. So it has that short ingredient list. Copyright 1983. I wore this to bed again last night, and this has really grown on me. I'm starting to think that there's a real masterpiece gem underneath, but again, she won't reveal herself to you right away. You have to get to know this fragrance. For modern people that are used to just taking a fragrance, spraying it, and judging it instantly, you will hate Chamade. Or you might not like it. You might not hate it, because I didn't hate it at first. I just didn't understand it. That's why it's an honorary mention to the list. But now that I've had 7, maybe even 8 nighttime wearings, it's really starting to bloom. And there is a beautiful rose, speaking of bloom, in this fragrance. Beautiful rose. And it just feels like the depth is just endless. Like you're just in a black hole of Chamade, you know, like you're just falling into it and it just keeps on going. It's absolutely stunning, complex, deep. For fragrance lovers that want to step outside of the norm, Chamade is, you know, definitely one to put on your to sniff list. Now, I've never smelled the new stuff. I don't know if it is worth getting or not, honestly, but I can tell you if you ever find these vintage eau de toilettes, it's absolutely stunning. Or I'm sure someone would say the Encre is even better. But that's all I've smelled. But it's really starting to climb up my list, let's say. And also, don't forget about, you know, Dior Essence. There's a lot of shared notes between those two. I don't think Chamade has styrax in it. And it's both of them smell like they have this sparkly ambergris to it, in a sense. Both of them have that smell, but they also both have that floral, and they both have this green touch. I think maybe Dior Essence is a little bit more fruity. Chamade's more to the galbanum side of things, but they each kind of do their own thing, but they feel like they are, like I said, sisters in arms. They really feel like they come from the same family tree, which is very interesting to me. Came out the same year, both French houses. I mean, I wonder if one was spying on the other. I wonder if there's a story there. I have no clue, but they are connected at the hip to me. So that's the first honorary mention. So let's do the top 5 countdown. It's not really a countdown. It's just 5 fragrances that I initially hated and now I love. Number 1 is going to be a Creed, and it's going to be Creed Royal Mayfair. Now, this is the old style Creed box with the emblems all over the box. If you've ever seen, I actually really like this box. And of course, they did away with it. The new style Creed boxes, actually anything new Creed is just shite to me. Some people just don't like the brand because of the, you know, false stories and claims and all that stuff. But we won't get into that today. We'll just talk about the fragrance itself. So Royal Mayfair originally was called Creed Windsor. Here's the old style bottle. And look at the dent in this bottle. That is my dent. That's my dent. I've worn that much of this bottle, of this 120 ml bottle. It's got this suede, like, front sticker, if you will. So this is like suede it's a smooth fragrance too. This is a Lush. I absolutely love this stuff. This is a, so in 2009, they released a fragrance called Windsor, and I have a decant of that. One day I will do a comparison between Windsor and, here we go, it's right here. So this is the original Creed Windsor. And then 2 or 3 years later, maybe 4 years later, I can't remember exactly, they re-released it as Royal Mayfair. And Mayfair is kind of like the high-end, you know, upscale, hoity-toity, bourgeoisie shopping center of London. Mayfair is like the high-money district, if you will. Highbrow district. And they re-released it as Royal Mayfair because Creed opened up a shop in England, in Mayfair Street. And the fragrance is basically gin, lime, and pine. Listen to this insane note breakdown. It's not a lot of notes, but it's crazy. Gin, lime, and pine with rose and tuberose, eucalyptus, orange, and cedar. Now, eucalyptus is an essential oil. If my wife gets like, you know, headaches or something, sometimes she'll put eucalyptus on. So that smell really initially put me off. I almost gave this fragrance away. I was very close to giving it away. In fact, I put it away for a year or two and never wore it because I almost thought I made a mistake. Like, why did I buy this? What was I thinking? Was I out of my mind? And the eucalyptus was one of the most challenging parts, but also there is this alcoholic gin pine trio. And the alcoholic gin pine mixes with this rose, okay? Now I would call it a masculine rose. But when I bought this originally, I think this is a 2014 bottle. The actual writing rubbed off. Let me actually see, I might have it here. It's a 2015 bottle. Okay, so I bought this in 2015 because I bought this new. So this is a 2015 bottle. And so in 2015, when I bought this, I wasn't the biggest rose fan, okay? And when that rose came through, and it really shines through in the mid, it put me off. And then you add the fact that it has eucalyptus, and it double put me off. And so this fragrance got relegated to the safe, and it sat there, you know, for a long time, years. Like I said, I think finally I revisited it and ended up deciding that I was wrong. You know, I really do appreciate this fragrance now that my nose had a chance to mature. This fragrance smells very posh. It smells very high class. You know, it smells like a it smells like a cultured man, like a man that's been around the world. They are educated. They are kind and bright and all that stuff that you associate with, you know, someone that has done very well for themselves. Maybe they worked their way up to the top of a corporation. Maybe they sold a business. Maybe they inherited money and just have style. I don't know. But originally it was made for the Duke of Windsor. That's why they called it Windsor. And he did have style. He was a very stylish Englishman. In fact, the Duke of Windsor, if I remember the story correctly, gave up his right to the throne so he could marry a American woman, I believe it was. I'm sure that you British chaps know the story better than I do, but yeah, I mean, that takes some balls going, I mean, giving up everything that you had lined up for you for love, basically. And he was always dressed to the nines and all this stuff. And that's the, you know, this suede here on the front is perfect for this fragrance because it really does have this very smooth operator, but classy. You know, when you go to Mayfair Street, and you go shop at those high-end shops, whatever the shops are, the people who go there think that they are just the classiest individuals out and about. And some of them may be right. Some of them are probably way off. But this fragrance makes me feel that way. And it makes you feel like you really have this class, this, you know, this pizzazz about you. And that's why I've come back around to this fragrance. And a lot of people give Creed a hard time for being a house that doesn't make challenging niche fragrances. So when you pay $500 for a Creed, you get something that easily almost could smell like a designer, right? This fragrance is the antithesis of that. This fragrance really shows that Creed in 2014 or whenever this came out, 2013, and then this in 2009, it's basically the same fragrance. I think they even listed the release year as 2009, even though Royal Mayfair didn't come out until 2013 or 14. And so for me, hating this at first, buying it, hating it, and then almost getting rid of it, not getting rid of it, keeping it, and then revisiting it and realizing that, wow, this fragrance actually made my top 100. This fragrance actually beat out Green Irish Tweed in the top 100 countdown for me. It beat Green Irish Tweed by just a couple notches. Green Irish Tweed is one of the most revolutionary fragrances by Creed. You know, it was a Pierre Bourdon classic, but there's just something about this that Green Irish Tweed, that lemon verbena DNA, just started to kind of get a little bit more boring to me. I really appreciate it and love wearing it a couple times a year, but this is a little bit more complex, if you will. Some people have mentioned that the eucalyptus and gin combo makes it smell like mothballs. Some people say, you know, that kind of stuff. I mentioned, you know, essential oils with the eucalyptus. So it's going to challenge you, okay? Even though there's not like this Coro Civet or Castoreum Chanel Antaeus Animalic vibe, this is still going to challenge you. But if you can, now the other thing is I've never smelled the reformulated 50 or 100 ml bottle. This is the old style 120 ml Creed bottles. I won't buy new Creeds. They completely lost my faith. They've ruined my faith in the brand, basically. So any Creeds I buy are going to be old style bottles, either the old 75 mils or old 120 mils like this. So if you have a new bottle, I can't speak for it because I don't know if there's been reformulation. I've never tried the new stuff, but if you can find one of these older bottles like this, give this a try if you want something off the beaten path, and you're gonna have to stick with it, because at first I think it's going to put you off. So Creed Royal Mayfair is number 1. Okay, number 2, we're going to go to a house called Lalique. And this is a fragrance that actually, if you go watch my original videos, so if you go watch my early videos on vetiver and stuff like that, you'll notice this fragrance was not included in it. I included flankers of the fragrance, but I did not include this fragrance because I tried it and I thought, you know what, it's just not worth it. I have the flankers. There's no reason for me to have the original. I was completely wrong. This is called Lalique's Encre Noire. Now, Encre Noire literally translates to black ink. And if you take a look at the bottle, it looks like an old style ink bottle that they used to use back in the day. They would take the quill pen, dip it in the ink and write, and then dip it again, that kind of thing. This is a Nathalie Lorson creation. Came out in 2006, and this is one of the most revolutionary vetiver fragrances, to me personally, of all time. And the flankers that I owned, and the reason that I thought I didn't need this is because I owned both flankers. So I had Encre Noire Sport, which you would think Encre Noire is like the worst fragrance to have a sport flanker for, but somehow it just works perfectly. This is one of the best summer vetivers for me because there's this crazy aquatic lavender combo with that cypress that you get from the original, but it keeps some of that dark vetiver, but it's not so dark it can't be worn in the summer. So I thought, man, this is like the closest thing to vetiver essential oil I've ever smelled, the actual vetiver. And then you add on top that I had Encre Noire à l'extrême, which is, you know, beautiful in the winter. This is the opposite. So I figured, hey, I've got summer and I've got winter down. This has more elemi, more frankincense, and then the kicker with the à l'extrême version is it has this beautiful iris. Okay, and I love iris in a composition. So it keeps the Haitian Java vetiver, you know, vetiveryl acetate, Nathalie Lorson used in the original Encre Noire, but it makes it more smoky, more woody, more resinous because of that elemi and benzoin and frankincense. I just love both of these. So I figured, why do I need the original for? I was completely wrong. I bought this because I got a great deal. You can still find this, Fragrance X, Fragrance Net, FragranceBuy.ca. You can find it on eBay. I mean, it's everywhere. And this is a new bottle. You don't have to search vintages. You don't have to mess with old bottles of this. Just get whatever you can find. Encre Noire, the fragrance itself is this dark, earthy, rooty vetiver. You know, the name Encre Noire is perfect. And having the original, there is cashmere wood in here, which is a synthetic. There is vetiver acetate, which is kind of a synthetic from vetiver. But even though that's kind of the knock on this, people say, oh, it's synthetic. It has, you know, and it is a little bit synthetic. I don't care. I love wearing this now that I've had a chance to get to know the original better. I have here, I'll show you real quick. I have a $500 bottle of Roja's vetiver, okay? And this is the Parfum version. And I enjoy wearing Encre Noire more than I enjoy wearing the Roja. Honestly, that's how good it is. This is one of the best fragrances money can buy for 30 bucks. You can't do better. I don't think you can do a better vetiver fragrance, period. You know, I would recommend, if you want to get started on vetiver, buy this and buy Guerlain's vetiver and call it a day. Don't mess with the Roja or, you know, anything else like that. So Encre Noire, I really came around on, and I almost would call it a must-own. Don't buy Chanel Sycamore, just buy Encre Noire, to me. And, I mean, value for money is totally through the roof. 30, 35 bucks for this or less is a steal for 100 mil. And as you can see, I'm set on Encre Noire juice. So that's number 2 on my list. And the fragrance, when I initially smelled it, it put me off. You know, I actually did not like this fragrance. And that's the reason I never went for it. I went for the flankers because I thought, you know, this fragrance it's too much. It has that, you know, I think Guerlain does a video on the Imperiale channel where he does like a week with Encre Noire, and he's like, it's hell week. He can't stand the fragrance, but he makes himself wear it. And that was the initial vibe that I got. And then, as I got to know it, I completely changed my mind. Encre Noire is, I just think it's one of the best fragrances money can buy, period. But definitely the best vetiver money can buy, in my opinion. So it just goes to show, you know, everyone talks about this hobby being something where it's only for people with loads of disposable income. Not true. Not true at all. You can spend 30 bucks, get on Base Notes and start talking about your experiences with it. You don't need to spend loads on vintages or niche. There's lots of fragrances that can be found for a deal. And then there's lots of fragrances that can be found for a deal that as the years go on, they're not a deal anymore. Look at Midnight in Paris. That was a $20, $30 fragrance in the garbage bin 7 years ago, 6 years ago. Now people are paying $200, $350 for a bottle of Midnight in Paris. So, you know, this hobby is not just for the elite with tons of money to blow. Okay, next we're going to go to a fragrance from the House of Giacomo, and this one's a little bit of a cheat, but I'll tell you why I included it. It's called Giacomo de Jacomo. Now, this is the vintage bottle. Take a look at the bottle. It looks like a hairspray bottle or something, doesn't it? It's got blue writing on it, and I initially tried this and I didn't like it. And everyone was shocked. They said, you don't like Giacomo de Jacomo? It's right up your alley. It's, you know, for a vintage lover, you should love this, Ramsey. Well, what ended up happening was I bought the current version. And remember I said the Encre Noire, buy any version you want? This one, you have to buy the right version. This is the version I bought. The new one with the silver collar, no blue writing with the cap that comes off. Apparently there's 3 different versions of this. There's one that has a similar looking bottle, but the writing on it is blue and the cap almost comes up like a Zippo lighter. Okay, that's the second one. This is the first version in this insane hairspray looking bottle. And this is an Enchante. Enchante Perfumes found me this. People ask me all the time, where do you get your vintages from? There you go. You know my secret. Enchante is the man. Okay, so Giacomo de Jacomo. I bought this originally and I thought, what is this? Because this has this disgusting synthetic burnt smell. You know, almost like you burnt rubber. and not in a good way. This bottle is like, it sounds like glass, but it feels like the whatever they put over the glass almost feels a little bit rubbery. It's not, but it has that feel to it. It feels like they just burned the bottle, like they threw the bottle in a campfire. And you got that harsh, you know, industrial rubber vibe. You didn't get the beautiful spices and the oak moss. It was just synthetic all the way. And it must have just been a terrible reformulation, but I stuck with it. And so originally I hated the fragrance because of the version I bought. And I decided, you know what? Everyone is saying good things about this fragrance. Let me give it a chance. So I blind bought this from Amouage at Enchanté. And this is the vintage. And it is night and day. I'll do a comparison video one day. But here you get this beautiful opening of spicy clove and cardamom. And there's this smokiness to the fragrance. There is this old school lavender, caraway, rosewood, a little bit of green touches from galbanum, but I wouldn't call it galbanum heavy. The galbanum is there, I think, just to give contrast to the fragrance, with this beautiful cinnamon, old school 80s spicy cinnamon clove, you know, cardamom vibe, with a base of oak moss and patchouli, old school oak moss in this one. The oak moss here is non-existent. So these are almost two different fragrances. This starts off spicy, I would say spicy, a little bit smoky, loads of oak moss in the base, dark, you know, rooty, damp, like you're underground. It's textured. This smells like burnt rubber and synthetics. And so, you know, this is a fragrance I initially hated, now I love, but it's about finding the right version. And sometimes when you're dealing with vintage fragrances, sometimes that's what it's about. And you know, that's the reason why I never argue with people on boards or anything like that, because their nose or what you're smelling is very subjective, and there's so many factors. Was the bottle stored properly? You know, I know Enchanté stores his fragrances properly, but if you bought it on eBay or Mercari, was it sitting on a windowsill? Was it thrown in someone's car? Was it, opened up? This actually opens up. And was it diluted? What, do you trust the person you're buying it from? So it might not be that their nose is broken. It might be the version they're smelling is different from yours. It might, all these factors play a role, right? But I found the same fragrance, right? They're marketed as the same fragrance, but they're not really the same fragrance is the problem. They're really two different fragrances. Reformulation has been so poor to Giacomo de Jacomo that it's basically a different fragrance now. And so I stuck with it, and now I love it. So initially a hate, and now it's a love. Okay, two more. I almost sold both of these, okay? Well, one of them I actually did give away and then bought again. But let's start with the first one, which is Guerlain. So another Guerlain. Guerlain's Tonka Impériale. Now, this is the old style bottle. Again, the new style bottle, if you look it up, looks like, it's the refillable bottles that Guerlain now offers that they doubled the price on, of course. Tonka Impériale, when I first got it, I thought, this is not for me. It's sweet. It's gourmand. It doesn't do anything on my skin. It just sits there. It's boring. And I wore it once. And so I wore it one time. And after the end of that day, I basically said, Rich, do you have a bottle of Tonka Impériale? He said, no. I said, do you want a bottle of Tonka Impériale? He said, sure, I'll buy it off of you. I said, I'll give it to you at cost. I'll give it to you for $200. He said, done. And then that night, I kind of went outside and I thought about it more. And I thought, man, I'm really going against my principles here, because I don't sell fragrances, because I'm worried about the future, how I'm going to feel about it. What if things change? What if my tastes change, like with Royal Mayfair? So I hit him up the next day. I said, hey, man, do you mind if we just never mind the deal? He said, yeah, sure. Don't worry about it. And I'm glad I didn't sell this, because now that I've had the chance to wear this more and get to know it more, and maybe let a little bit more air into the bottle, you know, more than just a couple sprays as I wore it one time, it's opened up more and it's become stronger. And it's still a lighter fragrance. This is not a beast or anything like that. It's still a little bit too sweet for me, but now that I've had a chance to smell the true Tonka Absolute that Russian Adam sent me, if you haven't watched the Russian Adam interviews, I'll say it again, please go watch those. They're probably the best thing I've ever put up on YouTube. If they're too long, put it on like 1.5 times speed and just watch it. And Russian Adam sent me these materials, and one of them was Tonka. And I got to smell the real Tonka bean Absolute, which it smells completely different from the crap that these houses put out. Like, for example, this is a Tonka fragrance everyone raves about that I hate. It's too sweet for me. Fab Delicious. I've talked about it before. It's just, syrupy, gloopy sweet. I don't like it at all. Guerlain's Tonka Impériale grew on me after I got to know the actual ingredient, because I'm thinking now that I've had a chance to get to know it more and the ingredient of Tonka. I think this is probably the best representation of Tonka that you can buy without just going and buying the actual ingredient itself, right? If you want a composition around Tonka, this does it beautifully. And because Tonka Imperiale, yes, it does give you a little bit of that, baked goods, almost like you're walking by like a donut shop or croissant maker in France or something like that, right? It gives you a little bit of that bakery vibe, it does, but it uses a note of almond, which Thierry Vassar uses beautifully in Guerlain L'Homme Idéal line later on. This is 2010. This is only a couple years after he took over Guerlain. And it uses the Guerlainade beautifully. And of course, with the Tonka is tobacco. Tonka and tobacco are almost always put together. So anytime you smell tobacco, a lot of times you're also smelling Tonka, because it adds some sweetness. If you ever smelled tobacco Absolute by itself, it almost smells more like hay. You know what I mean? It does smell a little bit like the inside of a cigarette package, like those old plastic wraps they used to wrap that you take it off and you smell it. It smells like the dry nicotine. It has a little bit of that, but the Tonka makes it a little bit more bearable, I think, to the average nose. So they used tobacco with Tonka and some frankincense and some woods. So the base is cedar wood and stone pine woods, and there's this masculine note of rosemary in the top. And so even though it's a beautiful composition, it never steps on the toes of the Tonka. It allows the Tonka to really shine. And I'm thinking this is the best Tonka fragrance money can buy. Now, these are very hard to find now, all of a sudden. You could buy the new bottles, but they are double the price. So instead of $200, you'll be paying $400. I love these old bottles. I think they're classy. I don't know why Guerlain switched it, but what can you do? And they fixed the issue with the stupid bulb sprayer they used to have. So yeah, they should have just stuck with it. I love the details of the bottle. I mean, I love all that, but oh well, what can you do? So Tonka Imperiale is number 4. Number 5, and you've probably heard me tell this story before if you've kind of been around the channel, but number 5 is Lyric Man by the House of Amouage. And Lyric Man is one that I actually had a mini of. So I had a mini of Lyric Man. I think they were like 7 mils. I can't remember the size, but they came in like a set of 5 or 6 Amouages. This was one of them. And this is the only one from the set I gave away. I gave it to my mother, actually, is what I did, because I thought it was way too feminine for a man to wear. I thought, whoa, I tried to wear it once and I just said, no way. I wasn't ready for it in 2014 or whenever it was. This fragrance came out in 2008, by the way. And the perfumer is a man named Daniel Vicentin. And it's this floral, spicy fragrance. And the spices come from a couple places. There's nutmeg. There's this spicy saffron, Middle Eastern. The saffron feels like the color of the bottle. And there's this angelica note. And angelica is a note that I've come to learn that I absolutely love. I don't think there's a fragrance with angelica in it that I dislike now. And it mixes all that with this heavy dose of lime. So if I could pick out the main notes, it would be lime, rose, pine, and some frankincense. And, there is some vanilla to kind of sweeten it up. There's some sandalwood to make sure, it's a little smooth. And there's some generic musks, it feels like, in there. But that mixture of lime, pine, and angelica and rose is just so unique. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Royal Mayfair also has lime and pine. So these two both have lime and pine, and I hated them. It was just a weird mixture, I guess. Maybe my nose just wasn't accustomed to that sort of strange combination. The other thing about this fragrance is There's almost no dirtiness to it. It's very clean. It's a very clean rose fragrance. Although it has a lot going on, it doesn't have animalics to it. And most masculine roses have this animalic spiciness to it. Like, you know, if you thought of some animalic floral fragrances from the late 80s, like Paco Rabanne Tenere or Alain Delon Aquitos or something like that, that floral spiciness. This doesn't have that animalic side. Now, what's interesting is this, which I'm going to be doing a review on very soon. I've got like 3 or 4 of these little 2 ml, I think they're 2 or 3 ml decants. But this is Lyric Woman. This is the woman's version of Lyric Man. And this is more animalic. This is almost more masculine traditionally. This is more feminine traditionally because it's cleaner. This is more like, feels like there's like more, I don't know if it's civet or castoreum or something that makes it a little bit more dirty. And they made this one the woman's version and this one the man's version. But the man's version really grew on me, especially as my love and adoration for rose grew. And this is just tenacious. I mean, it is just the rose in here, this clean lime rose with the angelica. There's touches of ginger and orange blossom and nutmeg and some bergamot in the top. It's not all lime. But I actually went back and bought a bottle. Obviously, I have a bottle. But I went back after hating it so much I gave it away that I bought a bottle. And so Lyric Man is now a love. Now, one thing I will say, this is the older style Amouage bottles. Before they wrote the name, they stopped writing it on the cap. So now this is completely clear. And they write the name down here on the bottle beneath Amouage. So I haven't smelled that. I don't know if there's a reformulation. I wouldn't think there would have to be, but I'll tell you what. It's just one of my favorite rose fragrances now. You know, this Rose de Taif by Paris Monte Carlo, the Extrait version, and Azzaro Actor and Aramis 900 are some of my favorite rose fragrances of all time. So this instantly catapulted to one of my favorite rose fragrances of all time. Crazy. You know, crazy turnaround for a fragrance I literally gave away. So I gave away its mini, and then as time went on, I was like, man, I need this back in my life. Like, I kept thinking about it, you know. And there you go. It's back in the collection. So 42 minutes in. For those of you who aren't used to my videos, that's actually pretty short. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys who love the 5 loves and 5 hate videos like this video. And try to get onto the stream me and Rich Mitch are going to do tonight. So 4 hours from now, we've got a stream coming. I hope to see you guys there. It's always a pleasure and an honor to get to chat with you on stream. And hopefully we'll get to talk later on tonight. If not, I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Bye, guys.